السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Normally after Salatul Maghrib on a Friday we take our regular lessons from Hisn Muslim, but the most important event of our calendar, so to speak, is going to begin bi'idhnillah in the coming days. So I thought it was befitting that we go through something which will help us prepare for that. Now, looking at this, I was thinking, shall we think of something which is a bit more extensive, something which is a bit more light? And then I remember reading this book, which is an actual collection of fatwa. Even Uthaymin didn't actually write this book, rahimahullah. It was collected and presented to him, and it was reviewed, and then he agreed for it to be printed. 48 question and answers, talking about various different things. It's from a well-known Imam from Ahl Sunnah, rahimahullah. And not only will he give us a fatwa on a different range of things that concern us in Ramadan, but also there are some contemporary issues that he possibly couldn't get with other manuals or classical texts. Another reason why I chose this is because question and answers is a good way of learning sometimes. And we find this in the Quran also. The whole of the second juz of the Quran has يَسَلُونَكَ وَيَسَلُونَكَ يَسَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْخَمْرِ وَالْمَيْسِرِ يَسَلُونَكَ عَنِ الشَّهْرِ الْحَرَامِ وَقِتَالٌ فِيهِ يَسَلُونَكَ, and all these different things. So Allah Jalla wa'ala is answering these questions, and because of well thought out and relevant questions, we have ayat have come down. We have revelation from above. The arsh has come down. So it shows you that asking questions is a good way of stimulating and understanding and interacting with knowledge. But also, this is in a fiqhi point, but there's also an aqidah point. Questions have also been asked when it comes to a person's aqidah in the Quran, and ayat have come down, and we have seen that there are certain ayat where Allah Jalla wa'ala explains that the person asking the question has had his iman increased because of it. So Ibrahim alayhi salam asked, Arini kayfa tuhil mawta, show me how you will resurrect the deceased. So Allah says to him in Revelation, this is a question you're asking, awalam tu'min, don't you believe? He said, Bala, walakin liyatma'inna qalbi. Of course I believe, but I want it to increase my iman. Also we know the incident with Isa alayhi salam with his disciples. إِذْ قَالَ الْحَوَارِيُّونَ يَا عِيسَى ابْنَ مَرْيَمَ هَلْ يَسْتَطِعُ, are you able to ask your Lord that we can have a ma'id min as-sama come down? And what did Isa alayhi salam said? Taqullah. How can you ask such a question? Taqullah in kuntum mu'minin. Don't you just believe in what Allah has sent to you from a prophet and revelation, etc.? And they said, no, we are not trying to challenge Allah, and we are not trying to have any doubt in the reason why we're asking this question. We want it so that we can be for Eid for the awwalina wa akhirin wa ayatin minka, and it's an ayah from you. So now asking questions has been related to us in the Quran. Prophet ﷺ used to ask questions himself to his companions, and it's a good format of us learning and keeping that level of stimulation and interaction. Again, this is a collection, so Ibn Uthaymin actually didn't really set out anything in this book, he didn't write anything, but he did approve and he did insert this introduction, and he said Ramadan, Shahr Ramadan Adim Mubarak, is a very important month, it's a blessed month. Anzal Allah fihi al-Quran hudan lin-nas. Allah has chosen this month that the Quran be revealed as a guidance for mankind, وَبَيِّنَاتٍ مِنَ الْهُدَى وَالْفُرْقَانِ, and he has made this month and fasting it ruknan min arkan al-Islam. The Prophet ﷺ said, Man sama Ramadan iman wa ihtisaba ghufira lahu ma taqaddama min dhanbi, wa man qama laylatul qadr iman wa ihtisaba ghufira lahu ma taqaddama min dhanbi. So now here we have a great deal of opportunity in attaining the mercy of Allah and having our sins expiated. But here in this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, if you fast Ramadan and you stand in qiyam in Ramadan with iman and ihtisab. What does iman mean? Having firm yaqeen having firm yaqeen. Now, how can you have firm yaqeen if you don't have ilm? This is very important. So people will think, yes, spiritually and the arkan of iman, etc. But the fiqhi aspect is also very important. Iman wa ihtisam. Once you've had that yaqeen internally and you have had your belief in the unseen strengthened and you've learned the ahkam and you've strengthened that and acted upon it, what do? Ihtisab. You seek Allah's reward. Uthaymin also, rahimahullah, said that this month is very important because it's a month of miracles that were given to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. More than one miracle. For example, this is the month that he became a prophet. For example, this is the month that he was helped in Badr. And this then became known as Yawm al-Furqan. And through this Yawm al-Furqan, this day of deciphering and the criterion between right and wrong, the Prophet ﷺ was given divine support from above the heavens. Also, this is a month where the Prophet ﷺ saw the opening of Makkah. And this is a miracle in itself because shirk has never returned to Makkah and it will never return. And the Prophet ﷺ spoke the truth. 1400 years passed and shirk has still not entered. So the Prophet ﷺ came and he was given this miracle until Yawm al-Qiyamah. We can see that with our very eyes, that shirk was removed and oppression was replaced with pardon. What did the Prophet ﷺ say when he entered into Makkah? اذهبوا, all of you leave, فأنتم طلقاء. All of you are free to leave. After all of the oppression, after all of the financial oppression that they did, they robbed them, they drove them out their homes, the Prophet ﷺ said, all of you are free to go. So this is a miracle, and this is how the Prophet ﷺ reciprocated that miracle from Allah Jalla wa Ala. Here we have 48 questions. But before we start looking at these questions, what is fasting? And as we saw in our Wednesday lecture, when we looked at some of the tafsir of the ayat of Siyam, one ayah, Allah Jalla wa Ala defines for us what fasting is. And the way He defines it is by giving us what nullifies it. فَلَا تُبَاشِرُهُنَّ فَالْآنَ باشرهن وابتغوا ما كتب الله وكلوا واشربوا حتى يتبين لكم الخيط الأبيض من الخيط الأسود من الفجر ثم أتموا الصيام إلى الليل. So now we have the three things that Allah has said which nullifies your fasting: sexual intercourse, eating and drinking. When? From the time that Fajr has entered with full yaqeen, and we will look at that also, until the sun has fully set. That is fasting. That is fasting. So therefore, based on this, the Shaykh says, وَالصِّيَامُ كُلُّنَا يَعْرِفْ هُوَ, and all of us know that Siyam is al-imsak and al-mufattirat, to stay away from all those things which will nullify your fasting. Min tulu al-fajr, from the time the dawn has broken, ila ghurub al-shams, ta'abbudan lillah, until Maghrib, with ikhlas for Allah, seeking it as an act of worship. Now this is important because we know that the had fasting legislated for them also. However, there are two groups of people that came right before us who deviated in fasting. So the Christians, for example, they don't stop their fasting. So we have Atimu Siyam ila al-layl. They will continue the fasting onto the next day. So they continue. And then we have another group of people, the Yahud that came before that, they delay the futur. So now the sun has set, they will leave it for another half an hour or so, which is also the practice of the Rawafid. So now this is also very important for us, which is that fasting has been defined for us, and again, we see the correlation between the fiqh and us being the upright ummah. It's not irrelevant. Why do we fast? We've heard this over again, I'm sure. What's the reason for fasting? Is it to remember the poor and the needy? Is it to remember our favors? Is it so that it's a sacrifice, so we can sacrifice our food for the sake of Allah? Allah Jalla wa Ala gives us the answer, is that the reason why we are fasting is so that we can battle against our desires. And once you battle against your desires, you will gain morals for yourself. You will gain self-respect and esteem and discipline for yourself. And this will then help you remain firm upon the reason why Allah has created you. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ حَقَّ تُقَاتِهِ وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. How can you die upon taqwa? Allah is telling us in this ayah, don't die unless you're upon taqwa. How can you die upon taqwa if you haven't been through the process of gaining taqwa? So this month is very important. Allah tells us, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, or you believe, fasting has been prescribed for you, just like it's prescribed for those before you. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you can gain that taqwa, which is an ingredient for you to enter into his Jannah. So food is not the objective. The Prophet ﷺ said, مَنْ لَمْ يَدَأْ قَوْلَ الزُّورِ, whoever doesn't leave off sinning. Here the example is of false witness, وَعَمَلُ بِهِ وَالْجَهْلِ, and acting upon it, and jahl. فَلَيْسَ لِلَّهِ حَاجَةٌ فِي أَنْ يَدَأَ طَعَامَهُ وَشَرَابَهُ. Allah has no need for this person to leave his food and his drink. He's just starving himself. It's a month where our sins are forgiven. It's a month where ignorance is also lifted. All of this negativity is taken away. Look, your sins are forgiven, the Prophet ﷺ told. It's a month where the Quran was revealed. So what happens to you? Your ignorance is lifted. It's a month where Jannah has been given to you. So what happens? Your tawbah is accepted. It's a month of taqwa. And this is taqwa, purification. However, like the Shaykh also mentions in a roundabout way in this introduction, taqwa can only be gained if you have a firm understanding of the ahkam and what is wanted from you from Allah and how to implement it. So now, looking at question number 1, ما هي المفطرات التي تفطر الصائم? What are those things which would nullify the fasting for the person who is fasting? So the Shaykh, he goes into it a bit detailed. I mean, most of these questions are very brief, and the answers are very brief also, but this particular one, the first one, is a bit more detailed. And he uses the ayah that we have just quoted, where Allah says that you can carry on having relations and eating and drinking until Fajr becomes clear for you. So now the Shaykh is saying, the things that nullify your fast, number 1 is food. Obvious. But what is food? The majority of ulama, this is not what the Shaykh is saying, but this is another benefit that we can gain, which is that the majority of ulama have said that anything which reaches your stomach would nullify your fasting. So if I was to get a pebble, and I was to swallow it, and it reaches my stomach, is my fasting sahih or not? With the majority of ulama, your fasting is batil. Imam al-Shafi said that anything which reaches the throat would nullify your fasting. Why? Because whatever reaches your throat will definitely head towards your stomach. But the majority said, no, that's not a condition. It could come back up inadvertently, etc. There's another aspect to this, which is that Imam Malik said, and this is the opinion of Uthaymin rahimahullah, and you will see this being repeated in a roundabout way with some of his answers. And this is also the opinion of Imam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, Shaykh al-Islam. Imam Malik's madhab is that anything which reaches the stomach would nullify your fasting, but it has to be something which is nourishing. So now going back to that question, according to Imam Malik, if I was to swallow a pebble on purpose, or sand, or something like that, would your fasting be nullified? The answer would that be to that be no. And this is the opinion of Ibn Uthaymin. And bi'idhnillah, this seems to be a strong opinion, because Allah says, وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا, eat and drink. So now Allah is telling us, and one of the things that we can gain from this ayah is that anything which is nourishing to your body would nullify your fasting. So now, we have that as an establishment, we have that as a foundation. Let's look at a contemporary thing, which has not been mentioned in this book. Eye drops, ear drops. Are those things allowed? According to the correct view, yes. Even if it goes down to your throat, even if it reaches your stomach, because it is not something which is nourishing. Okay, another thing, injections. Now, we mentioned in the Wednesday lesson that insulin would nullify your siyam. And one of the brothers actually rang me, who's diabetic, may Allah cure him and may Allah reward him. I got confused with insulin and glucose. Glucose would give your body a nourishment, but insulin actually breaks down the cells and the particles of the food in your body. So insulin is actually the opposite. It's not a nourishment. It just helps you digest your food, so to speak. So, but the qaida is the same. The principle is the same, which is that injections, and this is what the majority of the ulama have said, which is that if it doesn't reach the stomach, then it doesn't break your fast. What Imam Malik says, that even if it reaches the stomach, but if it's not nourishing, then it doesn't break your fast. So this is what the Shaykh is saying here. So now, injection of 2 types. If it is going to be a source of nourishment, then that will break your fast, just like glucose. But the other example is insulin. Is this right, uncle? Yeah? Yeah. So insulin is a doctor. So insulin is an injection, but it won't give you nourishment to your body. Therefore, that would not break your fasting type. So that's food. And just to summarize that, anything which enters your body which is going to be nourishing for you would break your fast. The second thing which would nullify your fasting is vomiting on purpose. Prophet ﷺ said in Sunan Tirmidhi, وَمَنْ اسْتَقَى عَمْدًا, on purpose, فَلْيَقْضِي, then he has to make up that day. Intercourse Now, intercourse is defined as a person entering. This is a major sin. Then, as soon as that happens, the fast has been broken. But the ulama have said that anything which is like it, which is when a person has anything emit from himself with pleasure, then that would also nullify his fast. However, intercourse has a separate ruling which has a separate sense of expiation, whereas anything which is similar to intercourse would nullify the fast. He needs to make qada for that day. However, there is no kafara al-mughalladha, as the ulama call it, which is to fast 60 days or feed 64 people. Taking out blood and anything like it. So menses would break the fast, nifas would break the fast, and according to the correct opinion, taking out blood, cupping would break the fast. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Aftar al-hajim wal-mahjum." The person who is doing the hijama and the person who is having the hijama done to him, the fasting would be nullified. So these are 5 of the things that the Shaykh has mentioned. Some of the ulama have said there are 7, I mean, if you look at it in different ways. But food and drink, anything which is going to nourish your body, if you are going to vomit on purpose, and intercourse. Like the Shaykh then mentions, if a person does a nullifier, what does he have to do? Or what are those things that will happen to him? Number 1, he has committed a sin, he must make tawbah. Number 2, his sawm has been nullified. So if a person has eaten on purpose, what does he do for the rest of the day? Carry on eating. The 3rd thing, he must make imsak. He must refrain for the rest of the day. Even though he has done a sin, even though he has broken his fasting, he can't continue eating and drinking, because this day, every day in Ramadan, is sacred with Allah. And that must be respected. And the 4th thing is that he must make qada. Now the 5th thing, when it comes to a person having intercourse, he's entered, he must give the kafara, which is, like we've said, to fast 60 days or to feed 64 people. So, if a person does a nullifier, and this is the next thing that the Shaykh is mentioning, does every nullifier actually mean a nullification? If a person has eaten or drunk or he's had relations or he's vomited on purpose, etc., does that necessarily mean that his fast is nullified? Not necessarily. Why? Because fasting is only nullified with 3 conditions. إِلَّا بِشُرُوطِ ثَلَاثَةٍ, the Shaykh said. Number 1, that he has ilm of it being a nullifier. That he has knowledge of it being a nullifier. So if a person says, I didn't know eating is not allowed, or I didn't know drinking was not allowed, I thought we can have water at least, then we will say, no, you are wrong, you're mistaken, but you can carry on fasting. Your fasting is sahih, but you need to stop doing it. Number 1, ilm. Number 2, now ilm is also connected to the timings. This is also very important. We're going to revisit this in a little while if there is time, but if a person believes that 3 o'clock Fajr has not started, so he carries on eating until 3:30, fasting is correct. But if somebody says to him afterwards, tomorrow, no, 3 o'clock, I can prove to you, the Fajr has begun, then he doesn't need to make qada, according to this condition, which is that he didn't know. And that is the correct opinion. Number 2, that he is fully aware as to what he's doing. Dhikr. So if a person is having a nice big burger, and he doesn't realize that he's fasting, but then he's having a bite, he's enjoying it, and then he realizes, I'm supposed to be fasting, and he must drop it at once, take whatever's in his mouth, and his fasting is sahih, because he didn't know, as in he wasn't aware, it was forgetfulness. And irada. The 3rd thing is that it has to be intentional, and it can't be by mistake. Okay, I mean, maybe they are overlapping here, but we're talking about intentional here. So for example, say a person is walking, and a fly enters his mouth and he swallows it. This is a well-known example that has been mentioned in the books of fiqh. He did it unintentionally, therefore his fasting is sahih. This is similar. I mean, contemporary times, we could make a parallel between this and smoke, for example. A person is walking down the street, someone has blown some smoke, he's taken it in, his fasting is sahih, inshallah. The Shaykh also mentions that if a person is forgetful, if a person does something by mistake, if a person is under duress, all of these are legitimate excuses. Question number 7. Now the Shaykh is talking about, is it correct? Because now the majority of the ulama have said that hijama doesn't break fasting. So now the person is asking here in question number 7, the hadith that we've just quoted after al-hajim al-mahjum, that the person who is having the hijama done and the person who's doing the hijama himself, or the person who's doing the hijama, the person who's having it done, does that person, or is this hadith sahih? Because the majority of the ulama have said that it's not sahih, it's been abrogated. The Shaykh has said, no, the hadith is sahih. Imam Ahmad has said it's sahih, and it's from his madhab, and Imam Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Qayyim, and others from the ulama have said that it is sahih. Therefore, the correct opinion is that hijama will break your fasting. And the reason the Shaykh also gives is because Allah Jalla wa Ala wants you to fast in the most upright way, where you are energetic. That's why suhoor has been prescribed. When you make suhoor, when you make hijama, some people, they will get dizzy. Some people might even faint. Some people have a weakness in their body. Therefore, Allah doesn't want that. That's number one. Or secondly, and this is also can be, it's conceivable, which is that a person might think, okay, well, I can get hijama done, and I've done it millions of times, and I've been fine. However, Islam has come to block the means to anything which could lead to something. So you could be your 100th time doing hijama, 101, you might faint. You might need to have glucose, you might need to have vitamin C or something like that. Therefore, Islam has said, no, if you want to do hijama, you have to do it in the evening. Why does it break the fast of the person that is doing it? And the Shaykh also explains that. Because in those times, you don't have a pump. The person used to suck it through a pipe. And it could be that the blood would enter. Therefore, and again, he is cooperating in a person doing something which is going to be weak for him. Therefore, there's different hikam that the ulama have mentioned. However, summary, that the hadith is sahih, and this is the correct opinion. Taib. So this is hijama. What about donating blood? Question number 10. What about donating blood? The Shaykh answers, if you donate blood, and there's a lot of blood, then it takes the same ruling as hijama, because your body becomes weak. However, if it is only a slight prick, or if it's just a little bit, then that is fine. Then that is fine. Because, this is a general qaida in the Sharia, small things are overlooked. The Shaykh has said though, however, and this is now question 45. Now what I've done here is I've tried to categorize the questions according to their themes. So now we're looking at those things that are nullified, and then we're going to look at salat and those things. So now here we're jumping to question 45. But the Shaykh has asked a similar question again. But this person is asking now, is that the person needs a blood donation whilst I'm fasting. What do I do in that scenario? So the Shaykh has said the same thing here, is that qaleel la yu'athir. If it's only a little bit, then that's fine. However, if it is a lot, then that will nullify your fasting, unless there is a hajj, unless there is a darura, unless there is extreme necessity. And in that scenario, illa an yakun hunak darura, then in that scenario your fasting would be nullified. However, if there is a necessity, if it's a small amount, then donating blood would be fine. This question now, question number 13, which is a bit delicate, but it's very important, I believe, which is a person pleasuring himself, or a sister pleasuring herself, or a female pleasuring. What is the ruling on that? The Shaykh said, now the question is asking, I did this, but I didn't know that it would nullify. He just thought that it was relations that would nullify. So now we have to contextualize that question. So the Shaykh said in answering that if the person didn't know, then his siyam is sahih. Why? Because of those things that he mentioned before from the conditions. So if a person didn't know, even if he was eating, even if he was drinking, even if he was pleasuring himself, etc., may Allah protect us, then all of those things, if he is done out of ignorance, then the siyam is sahih. However, the Shaykh said that the action is haram, and he's not allowed to do that. And there's ayat in the Quran where Allah says, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ, they protect their private parts, إِلَّا عَلَىٰ أَزْوَاجِهِمْ, this is the point, except for what they do with their wives. And there's also another look at the hikmah of the Shaykh, may Allah have mercy on him, may Allah have mercy on him. The Prophet ﷺ said to the youth, Ya ma'ashar shabab, O young men, if any of you are able to get married, فَلْيَتَزَوَّجْ, then he should get marriage. Because this is better for his lowering of the gaze, and it is better for his private parts. However, if he is not able to, then he should fast. How is that connected to the question? Anybody know? Fasting should be a barrier for them, but the Shaykh is saying here, look at this. Had doing this been prescribed, then the Prophet ﷺ would have said it. Get married. If you can't, then do this, because that will help you, relieve some of your tension. And then if that still doesn't work, then you can fast. The Prophet ﷺ didn't make that an option. Get married or siyam. Rahimahullah, Shaykh. Question number 24. If a sick person is healed, and he took the concession, or he is expiated, what does he do now? Does he need to make qada? So now for a person we've got a person here, he asked earlier today, he's got diabetes, and his diabetes is sometimes good, sometimes bad. So now, he can fast and be fine. But another day, second day, he'll fast and be very bad. So now in that scenario, this is similar to what the person is asking here. The person was diagnosed with an illness, he took the concession, he fed a poor person. Now he has been relieved. Before he thought it was a permanent illness, so he is fed. But now he has been relieved. What does he do in that scenario? Does he need to make qada or not? What do you think? Tricky one, isn't it? What do you think, Ibrahim? Huh? Should I repeat the question? He took the concession of not fasting and he fed a poor person every single day because he thought he was permanently ill. Later, he became cured. Does he need to make qada? Why? Excellent. Because he based it. Now, the Shaykh is saying though, at that time, if he had sound reason though, that the reasoning had been made clear to him that from trustworthy doctors, etc., if you're going to fast and it's going to be harmful for you, then he took that. Not just based on what he thought. And the Shaykh is saying here, the ulama have mentioned this in the books of fiqh also, is that if a person has appointed a proxy, so now say, I can't perform Hajj, you're going to do Hajj for me. Does he need to make Hajj if he becomes healthy again? No, he doesn't, because he's done what Allah has commanded him to do. It's the same thing here. Allah has commanded him to feed a poor person. He has done that. So anything beyond that, there is no qada. Question number 29. Is one niyyah sufficient for the whole of Ramadan? Tomorrow they're going to start looking for, not tomorrow, Sunday, they're going to start looking, no, tomorrow, isn't it? Yeah, tomorrow night they're going to start looking for the moon. Tomorrow night, can you say if the moon has been sighted, khalas, this is my niyyah for the rest of the 29 30 days? Is that allowed? The majority of ulama have said yes. Ibn Uthaymin, Ibn Taymiyyah and the Maliki madhab have said no. Why? Because, say I start fasting on Sunday, Monday I travel to London, there's been a cut. Therefore, even with the qada, when I break my fast for the sake of sickness or whatever, there is an repetedness or repeated renewal of intention. Therefore, every single day is a separate niyyah. And this is also the opinion of Shaykh Sa'd al-Shithri, hafidhahullah. So this is what the Shaykh has said, that every single day should have a separate niyyah. However, there's no hardship in this. The fact that you're waking up in the morning and the fact that you are thinking about the next day is a niyyah in itself. Walillahil hamd. The next set of questions now about salat. Question number 14. If a person fasts but he doesn't pray, what is the ruling on this? You probably could imagine that the Shaykh was going to go in length in this and talk about it, but he didn't. He said fasting is not accepted unless a person prays. Because if a person doesn't pray, he's like a person who doesn't follow Islam. It's the same thing. So now he is saying, if a person who is a non-Muslim says, I want to fast with you today, would you say yes? Maybe you could say yes, but is he going to be rewarded for it? Would he have the same ruling as him being a Muslim? Would he have the same ajr as becoming a Muslim? Would he become a Muslim by fasting? No, he wouldn't. Yes, Ubayd.
He wouldn't, instead of being like given the reward now, he would be given the reward in the dunya instead, because if
maybe.
he intended to worship Allah for him.
Yeah, maybe. Jazakallah khair. That's a good input. Maybe he will have his reward for his sincere intentions in the dunya, but nothing will be left for the akhirah. And the Shaykh is saying the same thing. May Allah make you like Shaykh Muhammad. There is nothing left of his Islam in the apparent. Therefore, any kind of good deeds that he wants to do will be recompensed for him in the dunya. So this is enough warning for us. May Allah protect us and our households. Question number 27. If a person sleeps all day and he prays at home, and he just wakes up and he prays and goes back to sleep, what is your advice for this kind of person? The Shaykh said, rahimahullah, the point of fasting is to attain taqwa. So a person who is fasting and he's waking up to pray and going back to sleep and he is lazy about his day, his fasting is very, very weak. His fasting is very, very weak. That was the answer to the question. Again, none of these are lengthy. You might expect some of them to be lengthy, that he's going to give a lecture and he's going to admonish the person. Alhamdulillah, all of these are very short. Question number 5 now. The question is asking, what is your advice to those people who stay up all night? No, understand. Stay up all night, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, eating, drinking, laughing. And then they will have a nice meal for their suhoor. And then they will sleep as much as they need. And unfortunately, I mean, this question is in Saudi Arabia. Over here, it's probably even worse because Salat al-Asr probably kicks in about 5 o'clock. And I can imagine there are people who are staying up all night, eating and drinking, praying Salat al-Fajr, maybe even in Jama'ah, and then still socializing after that, maybe until 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and then sleeping ila masha. And then 4:30, wake up, quickly wash themselves, pray Salat al-Dhuhr, habitually. And then maybe go back to sleep even, until, or maybe pray Asr, and then Allah knows best. The Shaykh has asked the same question. The Shaykh is saying here, this is a waste of time. Ramadan has come and the person is wasting his time. Not only is he wasting his time, but he's wasting his money. Because what he is doing in using his time in this manner and using his money in this manner by eating and drinking and socializing all night, sleeping all day, he has not used his time or his wealth to benefit himself for his akhirah. Ramadan has come and he is losing a golden opportunity. Every single second is very priceless in Ramadan. And the Shaykh is saying, instead of extending the night after praying with the Imam, Salat Taraweeh and Tahajjud, etc., in making dua and doing what is good for him in dhikr, etc., he is extending the night and socializing. Also, the Shaykh is saying here, may Allah have mercy on him, instead of eating so much, why doesn't he share? Ramadan is a month of sadaqah. So if he is using the time where he thinks, okay, well, this is halal for me now, 6, 7, 10 hours, wherever it is, just to eat and drink, eat and drink, eat and drink, so I can store up myself, he has again gone against the purpose of Ramadan, which is, or one of the purposes of Ramadan, which is to attain taqwa, but also to help one another. And that is also an act of piety and taqwa where a person gives in sadaqah. So the Shaykh is saying here, a person must use his time and his wealth properly, and if he does that, he will attain a great deal of good. Next question, question number 28. Some people only pray in Ramadan, but outside of Ramadan they don't pray. What is your advice? Rahimahullah, he said, their fasting is sahih because they have done what they are supposed to do. They are within the fold of Islam whilst they are fasting. Because they haven't done anything to contradict. But through their fasting, have they attained taqwa? The Shaykh is saying, taqwa is the purpose of Ramadan. And if a person is going to leave Ramadan, what he needs to leave with is that he is leaving fulfilling his wajibat in all times and all places, not just in Ramadan. The Shaykh says he doesn't know when death is going to come to him. So if he thinks that Ramadan is the end of it and Allah is going to be happy, and then after Ramadan, he doesn't know what's going to happen. Maybe he might not even see another Ramadan. And Allah says in the Quran, وَعْبُدْ رَبَّكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْيَقِينُ. Worship Allah until yaqeen, until death comes to you, not until Ramadan comes to you. Question number 37, or you know what I mean. So question number 37, ruling on combining Salat al-Taraweeh and Witr in one taslim. I've never seen this as a question ever. What is the ruling on a person praying Salat al-Taraweeh كلها أو بعدها مع الوتر في سلام واحد? That he will pray, for example, I can imagine what he's trying to say here is that he will pray 5 rak'ats, and within that is Taraweeh and Witr. You can pray Witr 5 rak'ats, but the question is, the Shaykh is saying this is wrong. The reason why is because Taraweeh, Tahajjud, whatever you want to, Qiyam al-Layl, whatever you want to call it, Salatul Layl, Mathna. It should be done in twos. So what this person is doing is an action which is not prescribed. Man amila amalan laysa alayhi amruna fahuwa rad. Anybody does an action which the Prophet ﷺ didn't do, then it will be rejected. And Imam Ahmad rahimahullah was also asked something similar, where he said, "Ala man qam." he was asking here that Imam Ahmad said that if a person stands in Salatul Layl for the third rak'ah on purpose, Salatul Layl should be in twos. If a person on purpose stands up for the third one, Imam Ahmad, فَكَأَنَّمَا قَامِ إِلَى الثَّالِثِ فِي صَلَاةِ الْفَجْرِ, it is as if he has stood for a third rak'ah in Salatul Fajr. His salat is batil. And this is the opinion of Imam Ibn Uthaymin rahimahullah, that the Salatul Layl should be done in twos. So if a person does this, then he has innovated and he is doing something which is incorrect. However, again, applying that principle that we looked at before, if a person does this out of forgetfulness, or he does it out of ignorance, etc., then there could be salat, there could be sujood al-sahw for the person. It's not that we're that strict. However, he shouldn't repeat that action. Question number 2, it should be at the beginning, but I'll put it here because salat. Obviously, another controversial question that happens every year. Is there a limit to the Taraweeh? The Shaykh said, لَيْسَ لِلْقِيَامِ رَمَضَانَ عَدَدْ مُعَيِّن. There is no specific limit for the Salatul Layl, for Salatul Taraweeh. 11 is better, however there is no limit. Now I will say, what is the difference? Some people will say, no, you have to pray 11. If you pray more than 11, mubtadi'. You've done bid'ah. Don't pray next to him, don't pray behind him. And the Shaykh is going to address that also. However, some people will say, no, there is no limit. You can pray whatever you want. What is the difference of opinion? Where does the difference of opinion come from? The ulama who have said 11, they have said that those 11 are like the Sunan al-Rawatib. They are fixed numbers. That's why the question is asking this question. Is there a fixed number? So now if a person was to say, no, there are actually 16 Rawatib in the day, or there are 20 rawatib, and they will say, where's your dalil? If you haven't got a dalil, then this is an innovation. However, the other group of scholars, and this is the school of Ibn Uthaymin rahimahullah, which is that praying at night time, Taraweeh, Tahajjud, Qiyam al-Layl, whatever you want to call it, all of this is nawafil. And the Prophet ﷺ said, Salatul Layl, mathna, mathna. Salat at night time, 2 and 2. Did he put a limit? No, because it is all nafil. The Shaykh says, in continuing this, and this is just an insert for myself, the Shaykh continues, now this is very important also, he said the Sunnah is 11, however, there is no strictness in this. If you want to increase, you can increase. However, now look what he's saying, there are two sides who have become very strict without any reason, and they become very rude without any reason. There's a group of people who say you should be 11, and again, like we said, if you don't follow 11, they will see you as being misguided. There's another group who say there has to be 20. And if you don't pray 20, then you're misguided. The Shaykh said both of these are in extremes. Even though they are saying two different numbers, they are both following the same level of extremism. The Shaykh is saying it should be open. And there should be lenience in it. Question number 36, is there a specific number? Again, similar question. The Shaykh said it is Sunnah. The Prophet ﷺ used to, he prayed, Salatul Taraweeh is Sunnah. Therefore, the number of units has not really been defined, because the Prophet ﷺ prayed for 3 nights, and then he left it. Then Umar radiallahu anh started it up again, and they started praying in congregation. Umar radiallahu anh revived this as a Sunnah, and he appointed Tamim al-Dari and Ubay ibn Ka'b to lead the prayers. As for the numbers, or the number of units, it should be 11 or 13. However, if a person does more, then there is no harm. The Salaf, all of them, or the majority of them, used to increase more than 11. And none of them rebuked the other. So if a person increases in it, there is no harm. Sticking to 11 is better. But there is proof for a person increasing from 11, because the Prophet ﷺ said, the night prayers are 2 by 2. فَإِذَا خَشِيَ أَحَدُكُمُ الصُّبْحَ صَلَّى وَاحِدًا. If anybody, you pray 2 by 2. If anybody is praying 2 by 2 and then he thinks Fajr is coming close, then he should pray 1, that will be his witr. So now imagine a person is praying 2 by 2 all night long. Is there a limit? There is no limit. وَلَمْ يُحَدِّدِ النَّبِي, the Shaykh is saying. The Prophet ﷺ didn't put a specific number. The point here is that the person praying at night, the Shaykh is saying here, this is very important here. The point is not the amount of units. The point here is that the person who is praying must attain a level of khushu' and tranquility in his salat. That is the most important thing. So if you're going to pray 11, and it's going to be long, and you're going to pray for 2-3 hours praying 11, and that's better for you, then khalas, do that. But if you need to pray more with intervals, and that's going to be better for you, you need a break every now and then that's better for you. The point here is that you come with quality, not quantity. Ruling on praying against, or what is the ruling on praying behind a person who is fast and hasty? And again, this is very relevant because there are many masajid who pray 20 and it's very quick, it's done 45 minutes, 1 hour. The Shaykh said it's not permissible for a person to be hasty and to rush through salat. Even if a person is doing a lot of raka'at, because now you might think this is noble, the person is reciting a lot of Quran, there's a lot of ruku, a lot of sujood, etc. The Shaykh said none of this is legislated at all. It's wajib for the Imam to have taqwa. And it is also wajib for the Imam to be conscious to the needs of the people behind him. Therefore, he shouldn't make it too fast. Same thing, he shouldn't make it too long. But if a person is reciting so fast you can't hear anything, and his ruku and his sujood is so fast that you can't keep up with him, then this is not allowed. And some of the ulama have said that such a person should not be the Imam. Next question, question number 3. This is also again very relevant. Can you pray behind a person who is praying more than 11? If a person holds in his opinion that 11 is the sunnah and I don't want to pray more than that, is it allowed for him to pray behind somebody who's praying 20? The Shaykh is saying here that what you should do is you should follow the Imam. And don't leave until the Imam is finished. Because the Prophet said, Man qama ma'al imam. If a person prays behind the Imam, hatta yansarif, until he has finished and he's completely done for the night, kutiba lahu qiyam al-layla. As if he has prayed all night. This has been prescribed or written for you that you have prayed all night. Therefore, if a person leaves after 11 and the Imam is praying more, then you have forbidden yourself from this reward. Is there Salat al-Taraweeh on the night of Eid? Question number 11. Is there Salat al-Taraweeh on the night of Eid? What do you think?
No.
Why?
You're not fasting the next day.
So what does that mean? You have to fast to pray Salat al-Taraweeh?
It's all in.
You're on the right lines, but there's something
all in correlation with the other. You pray Taraweeh.
kind of, but on the night of Eid, is it Ramadan? Shawwal. It's the first Shawwal. Therefore, there is no Ramadan. Question number 8. Is it permissible for a person to travel to another masjid, to a different city, in a masjid there, to pray behind the Imam that is there? What do you think?
Yeah.
Yes? The Shaykh, it depends. Go on then.
Depends if it's due to increasing your taqwa, then yes.
Okay.
But the only masjid that you can travel to is...
That's traveling for the sake of the masjid. Traveling for the sake of that place, that shadd rihal is for the sake of that place. However, here you're going for the sake of khushu and having... I see what you're saying. So you're going to a different city because you think there's more reward in that city, in that masjid. Yeah, that would be haram. If you think that I'm traveling from Leicester to Loughborough because there's a masjid in Loughborough that has a pious person there and he is going to be, the place is going to be rewarded more than 27, then that is haram, because the Prophet ﷺ said, that's a good point, that you can only travel to 3 masajid. The Shaykh said here, it is permissible for you to go to a different city, to a different masjid, which is not your local masjid, unless you have no responsibilities in your local masjid. If you have a responsibility in your local masjid, then you must stay. However, some of the ulama have said, and this is the opinion of some of the ulama, which is that forsaking your local masjid, and this is the opinion of the Hanabila, so forsaking your local masjid is makruh. Because this is your community. These are the people that you should be praying with. That should take precedence.
So,
Yeah.
does that apply to a masjid within the city? So let's say there's a masjid next to your house.
Yeah.
Does that have priority?
Exactly what we're saying here. So now, the local masjid will take priority. However, we have to remember now, we're looking at a context where everybody is Sunni within this context, the questioner is asking. Because where I was living in Saudi Arabia, I had about 3-4 masajid walking different distance. But the closest one is literally opposite my house. So now, shall I go walk another 30 seconds or shall I go to this one? This is my local masjid, these are the people that I know. I know other people in other masjids, but this should take precedence. Unless there is a reason, like the brother was saying, for you to go somewhere. Maybe the salah is longer, maybe there is more khushu', maybe the congregation is bigger and you want to get that reward, etc. The problem that we have in Leicester now here is that you could be living next to a masjid, but that masjid is a Brailvi masjid, or a masjid that they are practicing things which are not legislated. Then we will say in that scenario, obviously, then you should go to your local or the closest masjid where you will have khushu' and they will be following the correct guidelines. Is it permissible for us to go to a masjid where the imam has a nice voice? Just the voice. What do you think?
Not just the voice.
أرى أنه لا بأس في ذلك. I think that there is no harm in this. But it's better for him to pray in his local masjid. Again, support your local masjid, because now this is the tafsil, this is the detail that we've just explained in the previous one. The Shaykh is mentioning here that brotherhood in your local area should take precedence. And also look at the fiqh, the experience and the hikmah. If you've got a masjid next to you, but everybody is not praying in their local masjid, they're going to all these different masjids. Who's going to pray in your local masjid? Point number one. Point number two, what you are doing then is you're overburdening these other masjids. And now we've got a masjid in our locality, we've got people that come in. But imagine if everybody from Loughborough came here, everybody came from, all these different places. It'd be overcrowded. And the Shaykh is saying that is not the objective. And the Shaykh is saying here, just going for the sake of the voice, or just going for the sake of having a change of environment, you could be using your time a lot better rather than travelling. Look at the insight, look at the priorities of Ahlul Ilm. Question number 25. Now this is the reverse question. Is it permissible for the imam to beautify his voice? It could be normal, just normal monotone, but is it permissible for him to go, Yeah? What's the dalil? What's the Quran 13? Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, لَقَدْ أُوتِيتَ مِزْمَارٍ مِنْ مَزَامِيرَ عَلِ دَاوُودَ. And Abu Musa said, had I known that you've been listening, I would have made it even better. You have been given the tone, or shall I say, mizmar, I can't say instrument, what do you think? The melody, like the melody that Dawood, you remember when Dawood used to recite his Zabur, the animals used to come and listen. That's how beautiful it was. The Imam is allowed to beautify his voice because of this dalil that we have here. But the point, what is the point? The point is that it should create khushu'. Not that people go around talking about him, not that people be attracted to the masjid. The point here is that he creates khushu' for himself and he creates khushu' for the people behind him. Next question, is it permissible for the Imam to go up and down? Now, I've actually had this conversation with somebody in Saudi Arabia where they were criticizing some of the Imams of the Haram, Sheikh Sudais, Sheikh Shuraim as well. Sometimes they go up, they want to put emphasis on an ayah, they go up, and then they go down again, and they go normal again. Is it permissible for a person to do that? Some of the people that were saying, no, this is innovation, it's not been narrated. The Shaykh has asked this question, is it permissible for the Imam to go up and down when he's reciting to make it affect the listener? Now this is very important now, because Sheikh Saleh al-Shaykh is saying here also, that when some of the Imam, when they're making dua, when they're making this kind of point here, if the person's intention changes from reciting the Quran to something else, his salah will be batil. So he gave an example to Shaykh, that sometimes you find the Imam making dua and qunut, and they are not even making dua, they are talking to Allah. Oh Allah, you are forgiver, you are the one who forgives, we have been very sinful. And he might come up with all these different things. Now if that increases too much, and his intention changes, that he would then maybe be giving a rebuke or a reminder whilst he's making dua, then that is not permissible. Shaykh Uthaymin said, there's no harm in the Imam going up and down in his voice on the condition that there is no excessiveness. Now the ulama of tajweed and qira'ah have said that there is a certain thing called which is maqamat. Maqamat is when your voice goes up and down and then you have stops, and the ulama have also looked at that and said that there is a difference between, now you might even hear some reciters who mimic musicians and musical tones when they're reciting the Quran. If there is imitation, that is haram. If the person is elongating too much, that is haram. And this is by, benefit that we are adding from ourselves. The Shaykh is saying that there should be no excessiveness, but this is the excessiveness that I believe that he is talking about. There couldn't be any elongation, there can't be imitation of singers, there can't be imitation of rhymes, etc. What is the ruling on completing the Quran in the Salat and making dua inside of the Salat? The Shaykh said, لا أعلم لدعاء ختم القرآن في الصلاة أصل صحيح. I know of no dalil from the Sunnah authentic sunnah that the Prophet ﷺ used to complete the Quran in the salat and make dua at the end of it. However, outside the salah, Anas bin Malik, whenever he used to finish the Quran, whenever he used to finish a khatmah, he used to bring the people around, he used to have a walima and a festival and a meal, and they used to make dua together. But the Shaykh is saying that is outside of the salah. As for inside of the salah, the Prophet ﷺ said, Sallu kama ra'aytumuni, so the pray as you have seen me pray, and the Prophet ﷺ didn't do that. However, can you say that dua khatm al-Quran is a bid'ah? Look at the understanding here now. Because very people become very relaxed. And they will maybe take a fatwa of one of the mashayikh, and fair enough, you're entitled to do that. However, can you become extreme in that? And we've looked at this before when we were looking at Riyadh al-Salihin. There's a boundary between a person understanding a fatwa and then making naql and transmitting that fatwa whilst he's a muqallid himself. A muqallid cannot make fatwa himself. A lay person cannot make. So if a lay person, he's layman, he's not studied, he can't say that such and such is an innovation. The Shaykh is saying, "Wa amma itlaq al-bid." As for saying that this is a bid'ah, dua khatm al-Quran, then I don't like this, because there are ulama from the Sunnah who are able to derive this opinion for themselves. Therefore, they have gone through a process of legitimate ijtihad for them to do this. Just because a person is trying to seek the sunnah and he doesn't see any validity in what they're trying to do, it doesn't necessarily mean that every single action is an innovation. That's a very important point. Now there's another principle that the Shaykh is talking about. Is it permissible for us to pray behind a person that we feel that he is doing an innovation in? Is that permissible? So now a person is doing Khatm al-Quran. You might feel that that is an innovation, there's no delil. Can I pray behind him? ثم إنها هنا مسألة. The Shaykh is saying, now we have a mas'ala, because some of the Ba'd al-Ikhwa, what they do, harisin, they are very eager to follow the sunnah, على تطبيق السنة, وهي أنهم يصلون خلف أحد الأئمة. They pray behind somebody who's doing the Khatm al-Quran. When it comes to the last rak'ah on purpose, and sarafu, they leave. وفارق الناس, and they leave the Jama'ah. وهذا أمر لا ينبغي. This is not befitting. Because what this will create is اختلاف القلوب والتنافر. It will create a differing between the hearts, and it will create people, being distanced from one another. That is not befitting. And the ulama themselves it's well known in the books of fiqh. Imam Ahmad was asked, what do I do behind a person who is praying, who is doing the qunut in Salatul Fajr? Imam al-Shafi'i, he said, after the second rak'ah, after the second ruku' in the second rak'ah, you should do qunut. All year round. This is his madhab. This is how you pray Salatul Fajr with him. Majority of ulama rejected that, and they said that that was for a particular reason why the Prophet did it. Imam Ahmad was asked, what do I do behind an imam who's doing that? We don't believe that to be the case. Imam Ahmad, one of the imam from the Salaf, إِذَا أَنْتُمْ الْإِنسان, if a person is praying behind a person who's doing qunut for Salatul Fajr, فَلْيُتَابِعْ, then you must follow him, as him being the man, because he has been appointed as your imam. Therefore, if you have a difference of opinion between the person you are praying in behind, then you can't leave the Jama'ah. However, there is a difference between valid ijtihad and bid'ah. That is a very important boundary that we have to set down. So if a person is innovating in the salah, after the salah, in the masjid, etc., then you shouldn't go to that masjid and you shouldn't pray behind that person. However, that takes a level of fiqh for a person to understand. So now what they must do is, if I've seen something which is different, let me go ask someone. And then they will be able to establish for themselves, no, that is a legitimate opinion, then I can continue praying behind that person. Is it permissible to specify only the 27th for Taraweeh? I'm not going to pray for the other 28 days or 29 days. Just the 27th I'm going to come. What do you think? You're not listening, huh? 27th. Can I specify it? If you want to. Isn't that bid'ah?
No.
Why?
Wouldn't it be bid'ah, or?
I'm asking you.
I think it would be to just say that I'm only going to play that one, not the rest. Because if they're doing it, saying that it's layers and puzzle, because Prophet never actually gave a specified night in which days it would be. Or if they're doing it just because they feel like it, then it might.
Allah reward you, Allah bless you, Allah make you like Shaykh Muhammad. The Shaykh said, Naam lihada tahdil asl. There is a basis for this. Because the Prophet ﷺ told us to seek it. Hadith Ubay ibn Ka'b and other narrations, he's talking about it at length, I'm just going to skip through here. that it is likely that it's going to be on the 27th. So if the Prophet ﷺ has told us to seek it in the last 10 nights, and you think it's likely going to be 27th, then the Prophet ﷺ has told us to increase. But if you have to choose one, 27. However, that doesn't mean, like you said, Ubayd, that a person doesn't try hard for the rest of the month. It could be legitimate. A person is in hospital and he's finding it very hard, whatever reason, and he's only got ability to stand for one night, or whatever reason. Then in that scenario, you can say, okay, I'm going to save myself on 27th. That's fine. However, that doesn't mean that we should be lazy. So the Shaykh said, وَلِذَلِكَ يَنْبَغِي لِلْإِنسَانِ أَنْ يَجْتَهِدَ فِي كُلِّ لَيْلَةٍ, that he should try and exert himself every single night. إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ فِي لَيْلَةٍ مُبَارَكَةٍ. And the Shaykh goes on to talk about different hadith and ayat which tell us to stand during the night. What is the ruling on making the dua al-qunut in the witr long? The Shaykh said that it shouldn't be too long and it shouldn't be too short. The Prophet ﷺ said to Mu'adh bin Jabal, are you a fattan? A fattan anta ya Mu'adh? Are you a fattan ya Mu'adh? So the Prophet ﷺ is telling us here that your salat should be medium. And you should pay attention to the weakness and the need for those people who are behind it. So that is now salah finished with. Next category here, we have timings and moon sightings. Is it permissible for a person to follow a timetable, or does he follow what he thinks is likely? Salat al-Fajr, it says, according to my timetable, 3:30. This timetable says 3:15. I'm looking outside right now and I'm having my breakfast and it's still dark. It's 3:31. It's 3:32. It's still dark. 3:35. It's still dark. What does he do in that scenario?
You follow what's
In the timetable, or what you see?
Yeah, because the timetable could be off because it's not perfect.
Okay. Now we have two scenarios. If you are certain that the timetable has been established through observations, then you must follow that, because that is trustworthy, verified knowledge that has come to you. If you are not sure, then you can carry on until you become certain. However, that is not for everyone. That is not for everyone. If you are able to determine for yourself, then you can carry on. Otherwise, the best thing to do is to stick to the timetable. If you are not sure that Fajr is, this is a similar question, but now it's question number 30. If you are not sure that Fajr is in, so now it's 3:30 in the calendar. You want to have a little bit more. You feel, okay, there's a little bit left, it's better than wasting it. Shall I just carry on, finish it, 3:31, it'll take me 2 minutes. Shall I carry on? If you are not sure, then the Shaykh said here, then again, same thing. If it has come to you with trustworthy information that it has started, then you must follow that. If you are not sure, then the asl is that it's still night time. But obviously it's safer to go with what the timetable says. The majority of ulama, side benefit, have said that you should follow what is yaqeen. So if you're looking at the sky, and this is, the reason why I'm putting this here is because there's a lot of time, even within our own timetables, but there's another masjid I was just speaking to the other day, between Salat al-Maghrib and Salat al-Isha, there's 65 minutes. 65 minutes. Now, I've not done any observations myself, not any official observations, but 65 minutes between Maghrib and Isha, I don't think that's possible. So therefore, there is a problem within even our own calendars. The ulama have said, if a person, that's for Maghrib and Isha, but even for Fajr there is a discrepancy also. The ulama have said that a person must follow what he thinks is yaqeen. So if you've got a good sight of the horizon and you are able to tell that there is a break there, then you can continue. Yeah.
Or if you look at masjid, they follow like slightly early time. But you're uncertain yourself, but you might have doubts. But like a masjid, for example, the masjid in Leicester or Sunnah, they play at later time, but you're looking at masjid, they follow a different opinion, and they pray slightly, like an hour early perhaps.
Yeah. Okay, so in your locality you don't have any masjid which is verifiable, or that has been verified. Then what do you do in that scenario? Then you need to follow the closest masjid to your proximity where you feel that have done what is, what should be done to create a timetable. Imam Malik, in his madhab, said that if there is any doubt, then you have to make qada for that day. So if you think that it is 3:30 and you've gone into 3:31 and you think, oh subhanallah, I've gone over a minute, Imam Malik has said, your fasting is invalid, you must make qada. However, the majority of ulama have said that you must follow what you think is likely. And alhamdulillah, that is very important for us because of situations like this. That the religion wants ease for you. You don't need to follow the timetable to the second. Obviously it's safer. I'm not trying to say if it says 3:30, go 3:31 on purpose. No. Stick to what it says there. However, if there is a need, look, if you're able to tell, look and check for yourself. Because the asl is, like Imam Ahmad said, that the night is there. As long as the sky is black, then it's night. And that way you can continue eating based on the ayah in 187. When the whiteness comes, that's when you realize that, now I need to stop. Who do we follow for our moon sighting? Question number 15. Who do we follow? Now, before we look into this, there are over 4 different opinions. There are about 6 different opinions. Some of the ulama have said that each land has its own sighting. This is the opinion of the Malikis and the Shafis. The majority of the ulama have said that one sighting is sufficient for the whole ummah. So if somebody has seen it in Indonesia, that is sufficient from all the way from the Far East all the way to California. That is sufficient. Imam Shafi, Imam Malik, they've said that every single land should have its own sighting. And this is the opinion of Ibn Uthaymin. Ibn Uthaymin uses the dalil. The Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا رَأَيْتُمُوهُ فَصُومُوا. If you see the moon yourself, then fast. If you don't see it, then don't fast. What we learn from this, that every single land has its own sighting. And it's not possible for the whole ummah to be united on one sighting. This is the Shaykh's opinion. Is it permissible for us, question number 16, to depend on astronomical estimations? What do you think? Yeah? Estimations. No. This is the madhab of the Rawafid. The early Rawafid used to depend on estimation. The month is established in 2 ways. Either moon sighting itself, 1 or 2 witnesses. 1 witness is sufficient for Ramadan entering, and 2 witnesses is needed for Ramadan exiting, or 30 days. Therefore, there is no such thing as using astronomical estimations. But it is allowed, the Shaykh is pointing out, to use technology to enhance your viewing. So if you need binoculars, if you need telescopes or whatever, this is allowed. What's the dalil for this? The Shaykh is saying, because some of the Salaf used to go up to the minarets, to the highest points, to do the sighting. So now what they're doing is they're trying to use elevation to facilitate their viewing. Therefore, if you're using anything to facilitate your viewing, that's fine. But you're not allowed to use estimation. Estimation meaning, you look at the map and you're trying to calculate it without any kind of viewing itself. Question number 17. Can we have our own sighting in the West, or must we follow a Muslim country? The Shaykh said, the majority of the ulama have said that one sighting is sufficient for the whole ummah. Allah says in the Quran, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمْ, from you, from the ummah. If anybody sees it, الشهر فليصم, then all of you fast. But Ibn Uthaymin said, what this actually means, this could be another interpretation, which is that anybody from your own locality sees it, then you fast. And he said this is the correct opinion of Uthaymin. Because اختلاف المطالع, this is what is known as everybody having their own sighting, is better, because one sighting is not practical. It's not practical for one sighting to be sufficient for the whole ummah. And the Shaykh is also saying, through qiyas, and he's saying, okay, look, we have dalil, and we have also qiyas, and we also have practicality to support this claim that every land should have. Through qiyas also, do you pray in the same way that people pray in Makkah? Makkah right now probably is about, Asr right now is probably about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Do we pray in the same time? No, we're praying at 5:15, 5:30. It's a bit different. Our salawat times are different. Why? Because every land has different settings and, etc. Therefore, the Shaykh is saying through dalil, through qiyas, through practicality, every single land should have its own sighting. However, in the West, the Shaykh is saying, if you are able to make your own sighting, then you should do so. If you are not able to do so, then you should follow the closest Muslim country. Have you seen that before? Morocco is the closest Muslim country. This is the opinion of the Shafi. This is what Ibn Uthaymin is saying also, rahimahullah. But this is based on the opinion that we should have our own sighting here. The majority of ulama have said, any sighting anywhere, that is sufficient. And this is what we follow in all our masajid everywhere. And Saudi Arabia itself. So if Saudi Arabia can confirm, for example, it's been sighted in Turkey or Morocco or Indonesia or something like that, then they will take that, if it is trustworthy. Question number 18. If he has seen it, okay, question number 18. If you have seen the moon yourself, you've seen the hilal yourself, and you go around telling your local masjid, or you go around telling the local authorities, but they don't believe you, what do you do in that scenario? You fast. But the Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا رَأَيْتُمُ فَصُومُوا, stick with the people. If you see it, then stick with the people. What do you do in that scenario then? Keep it hidden. This is the khilaf that the ulama have. If a person has seen it for himself, then it's wajib for him to fast. However, the majority of ulama said that he doesn't. Because this is a decision that he can't take for himself. It has to be a communal decision that is taken by the imam. Question number 19. Is there a dua for entering the new month, or when seeing the new moon? The Shaykh said, Naam, يقول, what he should say is, Allahu Akbar, Allahumma ahilla alayna bil amni wal iman wal salamati wal islam. Oh Allah, give us the hilal, the new moon, with prosperity, with safety and iman. This is very important. We'll look at this when we look at Hisnul Muslim. Aman, very close to iman. Salama, safety, and Islam. And just this particular dhikr will refute the extremist narrative that we have in our ummah. Wallahu musta'an. However, the Shaykh is saying this dhikr is prescribed for the person who sees it, not for the people who don't see it. So if a person sees it, this is the dalil itself. The Prophet saw it and he said, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Question number 20. What do we do if we find out too late? So say for example Saturday night they go out to look for the moon, they don't see it. Sunday we think, Sunday is a normal day, we're going to start fasting on Monday. But wait a minute, on Sunday somebody says, I've seen it and here's the proof. So it's Ramadan now and we already started eating and drinking. What do we do in that scenario? The ulama all agreed, as soon as you find out you have to stop. Imsak, this is called imsak. There's a difference between som and imsak. And some people, they get that mixed up. Imsak is that you are not fasting, but you stop eating for the rest of the day. Imsak. However, there is qada. And you have to make qada. And this is the opinion of the majority. However, Uthaymin, rahimahullah, said, if you go back to the thing that we said in the very beginning, jahl is an excuse. And because you have that excuse, there is no qada. But it's better for you to make it up, because that's what the majority of the ulama have said. Question number 21. What if no one goes out to see the moon sighting? Are the whole community sinful? The Shaykh has said, and now he's talking about within Saudi Arabia, so he's not talking about it for us living in the West, because people are going out, but he is saying that these people, if they completely abandon the moon sighting, then they have gone against the practice of the Salaf, because the Salaf used to go out and check for the new moon. Question number 22. A person becomes Muslim during the day in Ramadan. What does he do? Does he do qada, does he do imsak, or does he do both? What do you think?
Just imsak.
Imsak. He does imsak, but there's no qada? No. MashaAllah. Allah bless you. The majority of ulama have said there is no qada. Because Allah says in the Quran, كُلِّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا إِنْ يَنْتَهُوا يُغْفَرْ لَهُمْ مَا قَدْ سَلَفْ. If they stop with their kufr, everything that came before will be forgiven. Therefore there is no qada. But he must make imsak. He must stop for the rest of the day. And the Shaykh also gives another analogy, which is something which is probably beneficial for us all here. A boy becomes a man during the day in Ramadan. He must make imsak. Does he have to make qada? No, he doesn't have to make qada, because that moment he was still not baligh, not mukallaf. The pen has been lifted. Now the pen has been dropped. He must stop from that moment on, but from the point that it was lifted, there is no qada. Yes?
How do you become a boy, like, in the same day?
How do you become a boy into a man?
Yeah, like, in the same day.
I think you'll find out maybe soon. Question number 23. Can children fast if there is no harm and they are not forced? Are you allowed to let your children fast? Well, now I'll put down here in the brackets myself, because the question here, هل يؤمر الصبيان? Do we command them? I mean, that's quite strict. Duna khams or khamis ashar, he's not a man. Do we command them? But here it's very important for us to understand that we are not allowed to force and we are not allowed to harm. So the Shaykh is saying, yes, so they should be encouraged. Even the wording that the Shaykh is using. They should be encouraged but not forced. The companions used to get them used to fasting and slowly phase them into it. And when they used to find a hardship in it, they used to preoccupy them, they give them something to play with, etc. So that they would get their mind off things. So now, this is the way of the Salaf. However, if they are finding it hard, then don't force them. If they're finding it hard, especially now, Saudi Arabia has never seen 20-hour fasts. So we shouldn't be difficult like this with our children. But parents shouldn't stop them either. Now this is another thing that the Shaykh is saying. Now we're just focusing on the side that might be seeing extreme and abusive, but we also have to look at the side that is too lenient. No, just leave him, he's 13, 14 years old, I'll leave him, he'll fast when it's ready. The Shaykh is saying we shouldn't be too lenient either. Because some parents don't let their children fast, and this is again the way of the Salaf also. All of us are in rajul ra'in fi ahli bayti. Everyone is responsible. He is the shepherd for his house, and he must be responsible and look at things pragmatically. Next question. In the West, the fast goes up to more than 20 hours. What do they do? Do they fast more than 20 hours? Now there is a fatwa by somebody who is well known here. He said if it goes more than 20 hours, then you don't need to fast. You can break it at a certain threshold. The Shaykh is saying as long as they are able to realize that it's day and night, they must fast the whole day. And then he quotes the ayah, وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَكُمُ الْخَيْطُ الْأَبْيَضُ مِنَ الْخَيْطِ الْأَسْوَدِ ثُمَّ أَتِمُّوا الصِّيَامَ إِلَى اللَّيْلِ. That's the point here. Continue fasting until you know that night has come. If you know that it's 20 hours, then you must fast. However, that's where the Shaykh's answer stops. It's important for us to note that the majority of the ulama have said that if you fear for yourself, then it's permissible for you to break your fast. Now again, I'm not trying to condone people be lazy and say, yeah, we can go and break our fast. It's a bit difficult today, I'm going to break it. That's not allowed. They said, if you genuinely fear for yourself, your harm, you think that you're going to pass out, genuine harm for yourself, then it's permissible for you to stop fasting. And that is something that especially culturally, we take it, fasting as being very, very strict. You can't stop fasting. No, that's not right. If a person fears for himself, and the ulama have even extended this, if a person fears for his earnings, he's allowed to break his fast. So for example, a person is a baker. He works in a bakery. This is his earnings. And he's working with fire all day. The ulama have talked about, all four madhahib have talked about this. He's working with fire all day. And he's sweating and sweating. What happens when he's sweating? He becomes dehydrated. Now, what does he do in that scenario? Does he stop working and he forgoes his rizq? Or does he carry on working and break his fast? The ulama, all the madhahib have said, if he genuinely needs to drink because he's become dehydrated, he's working next to fire all day, then in order to preserve his earnings, he's allowed to break his fast. Look at the rahmah of Islam. Look at the understanding of the ulama. So it's the same thing here. If it's 20 hours, if it's 25-hour fast, you must fast. But 25 hours hypothetically, before I get misquoted. You must fast. However, if there is hardship, you can break it. And you can make qada on a time when it's easier for you. Is it permissible to serve food to non-Muslims during the day in Ramadan? What do you think, Hamid? Can I serve food to non-Muslims? If it's your risk, then yeah. Okay. The Shaykh is saying here, there's two types of people that you can serve. One type of people who have an excuse not to fast. Women on their menses, women who are pregnant, elderly people, young people, these people, the travelers, you can feed them all day long. However, if a person has no excuse to fast, then you're not allowed to feed them, irrespective of their religion. Even if a person is a non-Muslim, it could be that a person is a Muslim and he's not fasting. You are not allowed to feed these people during the day in Ramadan. Does ghiba and verbal sins nullify the fast? The Shaykh said no, it doesn't, but it reduces the reward. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Man lam yada' qawl az-zur." Anybody who doesn't leave sinning, wal amal bihi wal jahl, or any kind of ignorance, then Allah has no need for his starvation. So it doesn't nullify your fast. Sins don't nullify your fast, but it nullifies the reward, it nullifies the taqwa, and you are now, could be just starving yourself, but not held to be accountable on Yawm al-Qiyamah because you've done what is obligatory, but you have gone against the purpose for yourself. If a person eats by mistake, should he be reminded? Yeah? No? Let him eat, carry on eating.
Yeah, let him carry eating because this is rizq and stuff, Allah.
The Shaykh is saying here that it is wajib for you to remind him. Man nasiya wa huwa sa'im fa akala aw sharab falyatim sawm فَإِنَّمَا أَتَمَهُ اللَّهُ وَسَقَى. This is a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ has said. However, what this means is that the person is forgiven for his mistake, but it doesn't mean that he is not accountable. So what?
The hadith, because the hadith, it says, إِنَّهُ رِزْقٌ قَدْ صَافَهُ اللَّهُ لَهُ.
Rizq, yes, he has been given this as a rizq from Allah. So he is the understanding here is that he is forgiven, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we should let him carry on. This is what the Shaykh is saying. But this is the first phrase. But he must give up straight away. Yeah. So now here, what the understanding is that he is forgiven for the mistake, but the ruling still applies for him. He must spit it out and continue fasting. Is it wajib to complete the Quran in Ramadan? What do you think? No, it is not wajib. Is it mustahab? Why? What's the deal? The Prophet ﷺ used to sit with Jibreel every single year and review the Quran, and last year he reviewed it twice. It's not wajib, but the person should increase in it. Is a breastfeeding woman allowed to break her fast? Na'am yajuz. This is permissible, and there is no difference of opinion on this if she fears for herself. Now the question is now, the Shaykh has not talked about this, but the question is now, if she has broken her fast, what does she do about the qada? Now Imam Ahmad, Imam Shafi'i said that if she fears for herself, she's breastfeeding or she's pregnant, she fears for herself, then she just makes qada alone. If she breaks the fast because of she fearing for her child, she's breastfeeding and she needs to eat in order for her to produce milk, she must make qada and she must expiate also. This is their opinion. And this has been narrated by Ibn Umar and others. Others from the ulama have said that she only gives fidya all the way. There is no qada. This is the opinion of the Malikis. So a breastfeeding woman or a woman who is pregnant, fidya only. But the correct opinion, this one Uthaymin has gone with also, is that if a woman is breastfeeding or if she is pregnant and she needs to break the fast, because sometimes they can fast, then she must make qada and that's it. There is no expiation. This is what Uthaymin is saying also. Yes?
Do you know how you say about the breastfeeding woman? It's like feed their child like acting or something.
Can they use something else? They can use something else, but she might not choose to. And she has that right. Question number 41. Can a person use an inhaler while she is fasting? What do you think, Uncle?
I think it should be allowed.
Okay, but there's two types of inhalers.
Yeah.
So what do you think? The Shaykh has answered this. If a person, now there's two types of inhalers. These inhalers, they have a substance sometimes which enters into your body. If something is entering into your body, then that would nullify your fast. However, some of these inhalers is nothing, it's just air to open up the pathway. If that is the case, then using an inhaler whilst you're fasting is permissible. Is it permissible for you to brush your teeth whilst you're fasting? Yeah.
For the inhaler, I thought the condition for if you swallow something, it had to nourish you. Would the inhaler actually nourish you?
The Shaykh is saying here, this is the opinion of the majority of the contemporaries, because something has entered. If something enters, then that is the case. But I mean, the Shaykh has not answered, but I mean, yeah, I mean, according to his principle, is that it has to be nourishing. But I do believe that he's got another fatwa saying somewhere else that if any of those particles enter, then it would nullify your... So maybe there is a nourishing aspect to it, I'm not sure.
The inhaler are supposed to go into the lungs, to
Okay.
open it up.
Okay.
So it's definitely going into the body.
Okay, but
And it's sometimes life-saving.
okay. But if there's a substance that's going into your body, will that nourish your body?
There's no nourishment, but it's a medicinal to open the alveoli or the bronchi and all that. There's no nourishment, but it just opens the...
Yeah, so if in that scenario, I mean, inshallah, it should be fine. I think that seems to be the strongest opinion, that if it's not food or drink, then it's opening up the pathway. Bi'idhnillah. Can you brush your teeth? Now, the ulama agreed that you can brush your teeth whilst you're fasting. This is the opinion of the majority. However, the Malikis have said after zawal it is makruh. Why is it makruh after zawal? because from the Sa'im, atyab min rih al-misk is better than the misk. So they've understood that literally. The ulama have said, the majority of ulama have said that this is not literal. It means that Allah appreciates the hardship that this person is going through. Therefore, you can do brushing your teeth any time of the day. Can you use toothpaste? Question number 42. We're nearly finished. Can you use toothpaste? Shaykh is saying yes, you can use toothpaste. However, he is saying that it's better if you don't use toothpaste because you don't know what you could swallow. It's possible that. However, if you need to use it, then there's no harm. But if you can avoid it, then it's better. But I think this is very important because now, Salat al-Fajr is early. 3:30 you break fast. Then you're going to go back to sleep. There's people waking up 8 o'clock to go to work. It's probably better if they brush their teeth with toothpaste. 43. Is it true that there is no gargling during fasting? The Shaykh is saying you are allowed to gargle. However, that the person shouldn't go into excessiveness. Question number 44. Gargling and inserting into the nose. Question number 44. Can a person use an injection which is going into the vein? Now again, the Shaykh has answered that using injections doesn't nullify the siyam. However, if those injections are nourishing to the body, then it will nullify the siyam. So the person has to look at the type of injection that he's using. 2 more questions. Second from last question. The question is asking here, some people believe that they must perform Umrah in Ramadan. Is this the case? The Shaykh has said, هذا غير صحيح. This is not correct. والأمرة واجب مرة واحدة في العمر. Performing Umrah is wajib for him to do any time in his lifetime, but there is no specification for it to be in Ramadan. Obviously, if you do it in Ramadan, then it's good. تعدل حجة, then it is equivalent to performing Hajj. However, this is mustahab and is not something that a person should become very strict on. Now, especially, this is very important. I know people who spend a lot of money. MashaAllah, some people can afford it, but some people can't afford it. And they go through a lot of difficulty and hardship. Allah knows best about their finances, but this is something that we need to point out, is that if you're going to go through a lot of burdening, then you can use it's very expensive, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 pounds, nearly Hajj prices. I know one package is £5,000. Maybe it's cheaper than, but I've been told of very expensive ones. Whatever the case, this is very expensive, and if people are going to go through burden in spending that much money, then they shouldn't do that. They should use the month to attain taqwa. Imagine what they could do with that kind of money in helping the rest of the ummah. Last question. Is it permissible for a person in i'tiqaf to leave? What do you think? Is it permissible for him to leave? And the extension on this, is it permissible for him to go to other parts of the masjid, such as the roof, etc.? So I'm in i'tiqaf here. Can I go down the road and have a meal and then come back? Not allowed. It's not. The Shaykh is saying here, if there is a need for a person, there is no option, then he is allowed to leave for that purpose and then come back. And the dalil for that is when the Prophet ﷺ was walking with his wife Safiya, and he said that this is my wife, and he was talking to the people. The Prophet ﷺ was i'tiqaf and he was taking her home. So the point is that he left the i'tiqaf for that reason. The Shaykh is saying the same thing. If there is a need for a person to leave, such as food or drink or bathroom, etc., then he is allowed to leave the i'tiqaf for that reason. As for going to a different part of the masjid, so I'm sitting here and I go in the office, or I go perhaps into the madrasa if it is connected, because it is connected. Is that allowed? Yes, it is allowed, because it's part of the same building. These are the 48 questions that the Shaykh was asked, and he answered in this little treatise. I ask Allah to make this beneficial for us all, and that He gives us the tawfiq